he was like, yeah, that's why I stole the car. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, and it totally made sense. It clicked, right? And then listening to you describe that now, it sounds very much like what drug users use, or why they use, to chase the high that they had before. And you're just never going to get another high unless you go higher, which is how people overdose. And so it's like you need dopamine hit. So how does one teach oneself when one comes back from that high level of intensity to live a quote unquote normal life if they're not establishing a company and like chasing different types of adrenaline? What do you find in your employees when you hire them, or when you hire them to send them out, because they don't all work for you, they go work for other companies? How do you talk to them and say, yeah, I get what you're saying, and I get why you need this thing? How do you replace that, or do you? Is it even necessary?
It's tough. Camaraderie is one of the big things that you lose when you leave the military, because you go back into isolation. A lot of people, I was stationed in Hawaii. I didn't really know anyone from Reno that was out there. I ended up meeting some people through the folds, but you get this isolation when you get out that's very tough to deal with. And so you're constantly looking for people that are similar to you. And really it's checking in with people, talking to them, getting to know who they are, where they come from. But when it comes to like losing that adrenaline rush, I don't think you do. It's very tough. And again, we talked about this, the survivor's guilt that I have, you still get to live life when others that don't.
Right.
And that was very tough. So I feel it is my duty to live life to the fullest. When I started chasing my dreams of building a company or working with Woobies, it was really because I felt I had to. Like, what else brings purpose to my life and meaning to my life, and can show, like, at least Zach didn't, he didn't die in Iraq. He came home. How did he live his life out? Did I live in fear, being stuck in my room, talking, like, right, just not wanting to talk to other people outside of my life, share my experiences with? So I started, luckily I was a recruiter out here after I left. So I still kept in touch with a lot of the people that I worked with. So they had very similar lifestyles. My buddy Brian, he's been shot twice, lost half his platoon in Afghanistan, dealt with suicide amongst his platoon. And he's a co-founder with me on Woobies. And that's how we found, common ground, because not a lot of people go through those things, but by bringing him back into my life and, keeping him in my life, we've been able to talk about it and deal with those things.
I appreciate that you said not a lot of people go through those things, because a lot of what I say in the clinical world is it's not about the experience. We don't want to do experiential comparisons, because no one will ever live someone else's life. Yeah. I tend to rest on emotions, because we all have the same 10 emotions. How do you work through your veteran community for guys who are like non-combat veterans? Because I know that's a big riff in the veteran community. It's like there's a little bit of like rub there. It's like, well, you didn't actually serve. Yeah. But how do you find camaraderie with guys who didn't get blown up, or gals who didn't have that experience?
Speaking the same language, I think is big. PTSD is one thing. Like, there is, you go back to my basic training. There was a point where we had to do a urinalysis to test everyone to make sure they weren't doing drugs at basic training, mm-hmm. or they found some hooch in the barracks, stuff like that. This is going to sound real bad, but I'm going to throw it out there. You had to drink 4 quarts of water. You have a 2-quart that you carry around all day, and this will give you some harsh reality of what the military is. We had about 280 so folks, and maybe 300 in the basic training class that I was in. So you have 300 guys standing outside, drink a 2-quart, you have to pee. They won't let you go pee. You're going to go pee by alphabetical order. All right.
Oh man.
So I'm a K, right? So I'm in the middle, and you had to drink your first 2-quart and hold it over your head to show, like, you don't have any droplets on your head or whatever. So you drink the whole thing. Then you had to drink a second 2-quart. There's 4 quarts of water in your body in less than probably like 45 minutes, and I had to pee. And I I raised my hand. I was like, finally, like, someone's got to say something about this. I raised my hand. Yes, Private Kumler. Drill sergeant, I have to go pee. All right. Can you do it there? I said, I guess so. I peed my pants. Like, they're like, what are you going to do? Like, I was so terrified of the drill sergeants and repercussions of what was going to happen that I pissed my pants as a grown ass man. You know,
what is the why would we do that?
Why would we do that? Right? It's kind of ridiculous. But some of those things from basic training like that. Well, I raised my hand again and said, "Hey, drill sergeant, I peed my pants." He's like, "I hope you have enough to wring it out to complete your UA." You know. Mm-hmm. Stupid stuff like that that we deal with in the military. A lot of people go through the same thing. Doesn't matter if you're in combat, not in combat. You're getting woken up. God knows what time in basic training. And then that stuff carries over to when you get on the line unit. You deal with a lot of stupid stuff. You deal with suicide, no matter if you're in combat or, people go overseas and they could be a dentist and completely stripped from their family, don't have the sense of community. Honestly, I think us combat arms guys, when we were deployed, had a little bit better because we were all going through a lot of gnarly stuff at the same time and had that camaraderie. But
that was your family.
Yeah, exactly.
And others
that
don't
still
get
is.
that.
Still is very much my family, closer to me than most of my blood family. And we relate on those terms, no matter if you're in the Marine Corps, if you're in the Air Force, Army, Marines, we've gone through a lot of stuff. So to be able to look someone in the eyes and be like, you get me, you've seen a lot of stuff, no matter if you're combat or not, there's a lot that you go through both ways. And I think that's really unique. But yeah, just building and knowing that you're going from being 18 years old. A lot of folks join when they're 18, get out when they're 23, 24, 25. And you're going from, all I know is either killing people or combat or just being in this really regimented lifestyle into, all right, you're stripped away from all the comfort. You're stripped away from the people you know. You're stripped away from everything you know.
Structure, too.
Exactly. And then go figure it out.
Right.
And there's not a lot of ways to navigate that once you get out.
I want to stick just for a second on, because that's a good segue into what you're doing as an employer recruiter. But I want to stick just for a second on the military experience, because this podcast is international, not just because it's on the internet, but because we have a following in several different countries. Have you interacted with other nations' military personnel, and how are those experiences similar or dissimilar from that of our own in America?
Yeah, for the most part, I've only worked with some of the Aussies, Australians, worked with the Indian Army, and some folks all over the place, depending on what I can and cannot say. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, dealing with them, it's kind of, they can drink beer. That was such a crazy thing to me. We're in Iraq, we get near beer. They send us like this German 0% beer or whatever, which is great, just being able to have a beer. But a lot of these guys are able to crack a beer overseas, and even just something like that, they get a little taste at home and some normalcy where, we're downrange, we're eating MREs and, dying, sweating to death, they just have it a little bit better off, I think, as opposed to our rules, and their communities are very similar. But I would say there wasn't too many things that were too different about what they do, but we were very much, you go fight. These are the things you do daily, regimented, and they're kind of looser, freely,
Yeah. So you don't suspect that maybe everybody went through the same urinalysis experience or the 20-mile rocks?
Yeah, I think there's some hazing that goes on there that, good or bad. I have a lot to say on hazing, but there's a lot that I wouldn't consider that now falls under those lines. But yeah, I don't think we internationally have the same standards and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of changes in today's military where they get their cell phones in basic training, can connect with their loved ones. And I think
interesting. As
much as everyone wants to say, back in my day, you didn't have your phone, but we weren't connected. It does feel nice to have that connection, even if you're just going through basic training, stuff like that.
Yeah, we were talking on your podcast about the human resources aspect of as much as I'll just a little soapbox here. I don't like the term human resources because it dehumanizes people as just being resources for a business.
Yeah.
And the idea is that if you have these human resources. You want to keep them well tuned, and you want to have like adequate support for them. It seems like that's just a no-brainer. Like, you want your troops to be well maintained, well oiled, and that involves connecting back home. Like, it would, of course, you want to like call home. Of course, you want to like stay plugged in on social media or whatever. But maybe we're just still continuing to evolve, which I guess is our segue into what you do as a recruiter now, not for the Army but for businesses. You attract veterans who are fresh out of their service and plug them in with jobs who need workers and who are veteran encouraged or veteran friendly. Talk about how that works.
Yeah. So usually and again, it goes back to grabbing them before they isolate themselves, pulling them back into community, because here at Alpha Roster, one of the big things that we do is we find them, we ensure that they're going to have a good resume, make sure that they can get the job in the first place, but we speak their language. We say, hey, this is what this person did. This is what it means to bring them into your company. The intangibles you're going to get with the veteran, they're showing up on time, they're hardworking, they're driven. You don't get that. A lot of people in just corporate America come in, show up like 2 minutes ahead of when they're supposed to be in
Very
there.
entitled.
All the time. And, call out sick all the time and all that stuff, where we don't. You just like, you're not used to that. You're used to just going in, to go to sick call in the military was so frowned upon. Like, if you had something wrong with you. So when you get out, it's a little bit easier. You don't have to wake up every morning and go on a 10-mile run or anything like that. But what we do is we get them at the point where they're leaving. We pull them back into the folds. We find them jobs. We help them build their resumes, but it doesn't just stop there. We help them navigate resources around the area. I teach them a lot of times, if someone's getting out, I say, hey, did you go do your disability? And most of them are like, no, nothing really happened. I just messed up my knee or my legs. I'm like, just go for it. Just go for it. Like, go do the right thing. Tell the truth. All your medical records will show, and whatever they end up with is what they end up with. So we navigate that for them. The GI Bill. A lot of people don't understand the difference between the Montgomery GI Bill and the post 9/11 GI Bill. We navigate that.
What is that?
So the Montgomery GI Bill will pay for like trade schools. Typically, the best way to say it is the Montgomery GI Bill, the money goes to you, then you pay the school. With the post 9/11 GI Bill, the money goes to the school and it'll pay whatever it costs for your schooling, and then you get a housing allowance on top of that to take advantage of. So for some trade schools and stuff like that, Montgomery GI Bill is better. For traditional schools, you can go through the Yellow Ribbon program as well and go to Stanford and not pay a dime for your 4-year degree.
Wow.
And it pays for everything. But there's different ways of navigating that. Also, when you're getting out, some people, this is the first time they went to college. Luckily, I had some college experience before I joined the military, but I didn't finish my degree. So I knew how to navigate it a little bit. What we do is we navigate that. So you want to go into manufacturing. We work a lot in manufacturing. I'm going to tell you, go get a certification. Don't mess with getting your college degree yet. Go get a certification in lean manufacturing, 5S, black belt, Kaizen. We've worked in these industries enough to know what you can do to help yourself. And so that we can show our employees this is where to leverage your skills, and this is how you grow. And then we teach them, then go for the degree. This is what you should go to school for in order to get that degree, so that they can make more money in the long term. So we're not just a typical like staffing recruiting agency. We'll still staff companies, but the end state we want is a better life and to grow throughout that entire process, to make more money, to become more profitable, to make a better life for yourself.
It's mutually beneficial to all parties. And I think that's sometimes it gets lost these days. I don't know what these days means, but where most companies and individuals even are just profit driven, and it's like, I don't care what I do, I just want a paycheck, right? I just want to pay for my rent and my family and whatnot. And you're giving meaning and meaningful purpose and experience to both ends of the deal, which I think is really remarkable. It takes more effort, obviously, but I think it's more rewarding in the long run, and it's more sustainable that way too, because you're not just a mill.
Exactly.
You're actually putting some groundwork in for the future, and with that begets more business down the road.
Exactly.
Are you finding it difficult these days to recruit people into work because and this time I use these days meaning like
COVID.
post-COVID, yeah, where we've got